Hello there, welcome to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I empower and inspire information leaders across the world to change their messaging and be heard, to focus on themselves and put the professional development at the heart of what they do. I've revolutionised and continue to improve the way information management is trained and delivered globally. My business, Leadership Through Data, is all about amazing training and presentations, capturing the attention of the audience and ensuring the time people spend is worthwhile and useful because your time is so important. My goal today is to have a collaboration with RIMPA, who's the Records and Association Practitioners for Australia. And this is the second part of our series. And I'm today with Stephen Clarke, who is an AI and IM consultant. So just before we start, can you tell me a bit about you and your outside hobbies? Because I'd just like to know about the person.
Cool. Stephen Clarke Tokowingawa. My name's Stephen Clarke. I'm based in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So it's nice and early in the morning here and a little bit cloudy, but always beautiful, the land of the long white cloud. I'm, as you say, an AI and AI consultant. That's my day job. But actually what I do when I'm not wearing the jacket and I'm at home is I like to spend time with my kids as much as I can. I've got two daughters, 13 and 16. So I like to play chess with my 13-year-old. And listen to records because I collect records as a hobby. And I'm an avid football fan, so Glasgow Rangers, my old home team, which I still follow, and Wellington Phoenix, my new home team, which I'll be going there on Waitangi Day for the next match.
Oh, I love that you play chess and collect records. You can really see the synergy with people's personal lives and hobbies and how they've got into kind of the role that they're in. So I love that. And who wins the chess matches with your kids?
Usually me. I mean, she's beat me a couple of times, but I never. It's always played straight. I never try and let her win.
Oh, nice. And it sounds like you've got kind of big role, busy family life. How do you balance work and personal life?
Well, if I'm really honest, I would say I struggled at it. I used to be really ambitious. Now I'm a bit more chill. I'm in my mid-50s now. I'm thinking about what really matters to me rather than kind of being all excitable about building a career. And now I get to do cool things like be a global ambassador for RIMPA. I'm in focus on the softer side. So rather than driving my career, I now work for myself. So I've got a terrible boss, but he does let me have time off. So I find it much easier now that I'm self-employed to manage my time.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And it is nice that we're part of Global Ambassador together, aren't we? So it's really nice to kind of be part of the RIMPA experience. I just think the organisation is fantastic. So today I really want to talk to you about AI. So in what ways has AI impacted so far our industry?
I mean, in lots of ways, but I think there's three key things that I'd like to raise. The first one is automation, the fact that we can do what we do without the need for manual processing. It's just not really possible anymore. And if you think back to the old days of paper and in and out trays and doing stuff, we did kind of automate the processing, even if we had humans doing it. It was often records clerks that were doing rolling the trolleys around, doing the in and out trays, but the processes were all automated. And I think we can get back to what we're good at. We've ended up in a situation where we gave people a PC back in the 80s and the 90s and expected them to be a records manager without any training. And now we can bring it back below the waterline. And I say it's kind of like the old in and out tray that the user we do it for them. It's below the waterline. The second thing is it's forced us to reimagine our practice. And again, it comes back to that paper paradigm, which has served us well for hundreds of years. If we, think about the invention of paper 500 years ago, beyond doing it with parchment and clay tablets and what have you. So we've always had to reimagine. But I think digital means we have to completely change the way we do things and think about it in a different way. And then the third thing is there's two elements to it. There's information management for AI, which is how do we get records of AI? And then there's I for information management. How do we do the automation and do all the stuff that we do? So I guess that's the kind of the highlights for me.
Yeah, so I love that, and I think that's sort of more operational, strategic aspects that you separate really nicely there. And I really like that the thought process that you have around the in and out trays, because actually it's a routine. And what we're saying now is that AI is a routine. You integrate it into your daily routine. And I think that's a really good kind of concept to kind of formulate that. So how do you feel that it kind of has impacted us going forward?
Well, I mean, as with anything, there's pluses and minuses. So there's risks and benefits. There's opportunities and threats. So I mean, the threat is that we become obsolete. If everything we can do can be automated, whereas our role, and the answers in the question, and you've just touched on it, is that strategic thinking, and the kind of brains behind AI, the human in the loop, the person that really checks the stuff and understands if the AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing. We have to be really curious and always be developing professionally. I think that was always true, but I think it's absolutely fundamental to who we are now. And again, that's a sort of second treatment to that first risk. And then on the upside, to be positive about it, and I am in general positive about it, is it's now given us the tools to be able to do the stuff we've been banging on about for 30 years. Because, previously we did have a tendency to delimit ourselves to that 3 or 5% of the organizational information assets that were in the EDRMS or ECM or whatever you want to call it, or, and more laterally things like SharePoint. But that's not where the real business value is. It's in the big core systems. And really we were kept out of those because we didn't have the tools to be able to implement our practice.
And I think it's, do you actually think that we as a people or as a profession should be concerned about our jobs with AI?
Well, I mean, I think everybody should be to some level, because it will impact most roles, particularly, I mean, it will impact all knowledge management roles, and knowledge worker roles, and it's exactly where we sit. So yeah, I'm going to come to that later on, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of wanted to tease it out of you a bit more, because I've always worked on the principle that you co-pilot it. So you talk about co-pilot and AI, you're a co-pilot of it. It's not autopilot. So there's always going to need some level of human intervention with anything. And I always foresee within our industry that will still continue. We will still need, our roles will develop, and AI will become part of the new system, as you said, the in and out file trails, but we'll always have to be around to look and oversee it. But I do think in terms of productivity, we'll be able to do more for the benefit of AI as long as we're managing those risks.
Yeah, actually, to be much more explicit, it's not the AI itself that's the risk, it's the people with AI, and that's the risk all around in general. But the risk is that other humans think that our job is no longer needed because the AI can do it.
Okay, so we've talked about risks and what do you think the benefits of AI are?
Well, I mean, I think I've already touched on it. The first thing is that what we do now in the digital world is it's beyond human scale. There's no way we could do this manually, even if we wanted to. And even in say that 3 or 5% of the organizational records that sit in RIMPA, we couldn't do it at that level. Never mind at scale with the whole of the organization. Now we can, because we can build our practice and our policies, our processes into the tool sets and automate them and let them run free through the system, as you say, become the kind of the human quality assurance manager on top, rather than doing the boring automated stuff that really should have always been automated. I think it's the relevancy of our practice that we've been hiding under a bushel for a very long time. The move towards knowledge graphs, and that automation means that the sort of work that traditionally we've done for hundreds of years around ontology, semantic understanding, conceptual modeling for information management, retrieval, access controls, things like retention and disposal, quality of access, getting the stuff that people need to them in the quickest possible way. I think we can now do that. And finally, the thing that we've always really been here for is yes, the volume, yes, the variety, yes, the velocity, but the veracity of what comes back now. The way that we can now use our tool sets to really do sort of search engine optimization and understanding of the quality of return and outputs, rather than focusing on policy at the back end.
So how do you think information managers can prepare for AI changes?
Well, I think there is a bit of putting that paper paradigm behind us. not thinking about it in quite the same way. And again, if I come back to that ECM or SharePoint example, stop trying to rebuild folder structures in there. It's relational, not hierarchical anymore. So move away from those paper paradigms. Always keep developing. Don't see it as something scary. It's something that we are, it's designed into our practice. So we just need to get with the program. Get quantum, baby. Quantum's coming. And I think that that deep understanding of the epistemology, the tautology, the ontology of information that we get taught in our practice is the future. And things like quantum, they're really going to threaten traditional models of things like cybersecurity and access and control. We are there for that.
And then, so have you got any suggestions for listeners about that? Because you talked about development, and there was a really big thing in our industry about us keeping up to date with our professional development because technology changes. So of all those things you just described, are there any ways that you could suggest that people could, develop themselves?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a thing that we should all do anyway, which is finding time in our calendars every week to do development, whether that's self or augmented through trainers. So obviously I'm going to make a plug for the RIMPA training courses, because I run one of them, but other courses are available. And I think, actually, I mean, things like Google run really good and Microsoft run really good online stuff if you want to do self-development. But I would recommend at some level doing group development, because what you're learning from each other is really important. Yeah, I think, finding time to develop yourself and making it a part of your structured approach, not just winging it.
Yeah, time is so a lot of customers say to me, I haven't got time. And it's actually there's some really good quotes from Nike that actually says you have got time, you just haven't prioritized your time. And I always say 2 hours a week, professional development, lock it in the calendar, nothing else happens. So yeah, no, it's always good. And I think, one of the biggest things in our industry, as I said, is changing quite quickly and quite rapidly. And if we don't keep up with the pace of professional development, we could be out of a job because we're so outdated as to how far the profession has progressed with technology.
No, I totally agree. And as a significant risk for us, as it is for all knowledge workers, we have to shape our own destiny, our own future, and not be passengers on this. We have to put the hand on the tiller, not for ourselves as individuals, but also as part of our profession. And it's kind of one of the reasons I love doing the ISO work, and I'm working with TC46, SC11, Working Group 22, which is the group developing the records management for artificial intelligence standard. So professional development doesn't have to be just training. You can actually get your hands dirty and go and volunteer or do stuff within the broader profession.
Yeah. And professional development is reading books, blogs. There's so much else outside training as well that can give you that kind of lift. So Stephen, I kind of want to just talk to you about the new Chinese AI tool. Can you just give us a concept, just general concept about that? Because that was only launched kind of this week, and what your thoughts are on it.
Well, yeah, it's pretty new as a tool, but it's not necessarily doing anything particularly new in AI. It's distilling stuff, and there's a controversy about some of the distillation, and it's making some elements of AI that you'd have to pay quite a lot of money for free, in inverted commas, but also open. It's an open tool, which means I'm hearing a lot of kind of scuttlebutt about it's foreign, it's not Western, it's kind of got the Chinese viewpoint. Well, all AI is biased from its cultural context. So it's great for Westerners to actually see that for once, is one thing. But what it's really good at is, we need to judge it on what it's good at, not what it's not so good at. And the element, if you go on to it, you'll see that there's two elements you can do it. I say traditional, but it's only been around for a couple of years. But the Gen AI query, tell me about X, do your prompting. But the other options to use the reasoning and logic engine, and that's fantastic. And that's the thing that I'm kind of most excited about. And I think that's Gen AI will have its use cases, but I think that is a bit of a hype train. The machine learning component has always been the interesting bit of AI over the last 20 years or so. Mm-hmm. And so I think that logic and reasoning engine is what it's really good at. I mean, it's better than my experience with the other tools like Claude or Notebook LM or ChatGPT, etc.
So do you think it's something that will impact our industry that we should look out for?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that certainly, I did postgrad in records management and archives management. One of the big things in archives science is understanding bias, understanding the context of record keeping. If you look back at colonial records and the way that they talk about the worldview that now seems ludicrous and scary to us, it's still with us, right? Bias and records creation is still there all the time. So the fact that we can now see it as a Westerner, and some of that bias, I think it's great because we, as I say, it's been kind of a bit invisible for us. And I live in New Zealand, and Maori traditional culture, they're seeing Western AI in the raw, and now we've got the opportunity to see non-Western AI. And I think that the great thing about the reasoning engine is it's explainable AI. And when you put your query in, the first bit it scrolls out is how it did its reasoning and logic before it actually gives you the results. So that explainable component, I think, is awesome. And the democratization through it being open, and so you don't have to use the underlying Chinese original logic training data. You can bring it in-house and run it yourself. And for me, that is the future of AI, is scaling it down to the human and the organizational level. And I think that is, we're increasingly see organizations doing their own large language models and making it real for your own organization.
Yeah. So that is like in terms of AI, what tips can you provide listeners if they've been asked to roll out AI to consider or implement it in their organizations?
Well, there's my view on this, and it's as a personal view, which is I think is doing use case assessment models, actually understanding speed to delivery, the doability of it. Does it solve a business problem? Is the organization readiness there? Have you got the humans and the skills to do it? And do you have the data quality and the information quality? Rubbish in, rubbish out. So I think use cases are really important. And then that comes with the guardrails. So don't wait till you've got your use case ready and go, what's the ethical concerns, bias concerns, legislative compliance concerns? Put your guardrails in first so you know where your edges are and have a safe spaces to operate, experiment, and to kind of make mistakes rather than, there's lots of scare stories of people who've made the mistakes live rather than doing it in-house. And use it as an opportunity to showcase why information management skills and records management skills are now front and center to your IT team and to your executive, because the skills that we have are fantastic enablers and ways to understand and do the risk mitigation for AI.
Brilliant, thank you. And with any public speaking topic, Stephen, I always say one takeaway message for the listeners today. What's the one takeaway message that you want them to take away from this session?
AI is certainly, machine learning is not a hype train. It's the future of our profession. And if you don't keep up, you'll be left behind.
Thank you. And how can listeners reach out to you and connect and follow your work?
Stephen Clarke on LinkedIn. That's where I do most of my public facing stuff. And on things like this, I love to do podcasts and I do publications for various literary organs.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for being part of this second episode of the RIMPA and Leadership Through Data session. I'm really grateful for your time, Stephen. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.